All right, let's talk about something huge, global inequality. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's a big, abstract topic, but it's not. It's actually a story about billions of people. And believe it or not, it's also a story about you. So let's dive in and figure out exactly where you fit into this whole thing. So I'm going to start with a really direct question for you. Think about everything you own. Your savings, maybe a car, any investments, and then subtract any debts you have. Got a number in your head? Okay. Do you think that number puts you in the world's wealthiest 10%? I mean, for most of us, the gut reaction is, no way, not even close. Well, you might be in for a surprise.
The number is $93,170. That's it. According to the Credit Suisse Global Wealth Report, if your net worth is above that, you are in the top 10% of the entire planet. For a lot of people, especially if you own a home or have been saving for a while, that's actually not a crazy high number. It kind of puts things in perspective, doesn't it?
Okay, so now that we have a sense of where we might stand individually, let's pull the camera back, way back. We're going to look at the big picture now, what's called the global wealth pyramid. And I'll warn you now, this is where things get, well, pretty stark. Just take a look at this map. It paints a really clear picture. Those dark blue areas, that's where the average wealth per adult is over 100 grand. And you can see it's pretty much all clustered in North America, Western Europe, and Australia. It's what some scholars call the minority world, simply because, well, it's where a minority of the world's population actually lives. And if the map wasn't clear enough, this chart just lays it all bare. Remember that top 10% we were just talking about? The group that starts at just over $93,000? Well, that group owns 85% of everything, of all the wealth on the planet, which means everybody else, the other 90% of the world's population, are sharing the last 15%. Just let that sink in for a second. 85 to 15. But what if we zoom in even further, like to the tippy top of that pyramid? Well, the numbers just get mind-boggling. Back in 2014, Oxfam did a calculation and found that the 85 richest people, that's a group that could fit on a double-decker bus, had more wealth than the poorest 3.5 billion people combined. Just try to picture that. 85 people on one side of a scale and 3.5 billion on the other. So, seeing all this, you have to ask, how? How is this even possible? This isn't just some random fluke of history. It turns out there's a kind of economic engine humming away in the background, a core mechanism that keeps pushing this gap wider and wider.
And maybe the best explanation for what that engine is comes from an economist named Thomas Piketty. He boiled it all down to a super simple but really powerful little formula. R greater than G. That's it. R is greater than G. And believe it or not, that little idea might be the single most important key to unlocking this whole puzzle.
So what on earth does that mean, right? Let's break it down with an analogy. R stands for the rate of return on capital. Think of this as a bullet train. It's the money you make just by having money. From investments, stocks, real estate, your money is working for you, and it's moving fast. Now, G stands for economic growth. This is more like a local commuter train. It's the growth of wages and salaries, the money most of us earn by, working. And what Piketty found by looking at centuries of data is that the bullet train, R, almost always moves faster than the commuter train, G. So, wealth that comes from capital just naturally pulls away from wealth that comes from labor.
And here's why that's such a big deal. As Piketty argues, this isn't just about spreadsheets and economics. It's about our values. I mean, we're all taught to believe in meritocracy, right? The idea that if you work hard and you're talented, you'll get ahead. But if money made from just having money grows way faster than money made from working, well, that kind of throws a wrench in the whole idea of meritocracy, doesn't it?
Okay, so let's bring this down from the clouds of economic theory and see what it actually looks like on the ground for real people. Because in the end, we're not just talking about dollars and cents. We're talking about someone's chances in life. And so much of that comes down to what some people call an accident of birth. Basically, the lottery of where in the world you happen to be born.
And a really good way to measure this is to look at more than just money. The United Nations has something called the Human Development Index, or HDI. It's great because it gives us a much richer picture. It looks at three basic things. Can you live a long, healthy life? Do you have access to education? And do you have a decent standard of living? This helps us see the real consequences, the human cost of all this inequality.
And those consequences are just profound. Take a look at this hunger map. Over 820 million people,
Think about that. That's more than 1 out of every 9 people on the entire planet simply don't have enough food to eat. And you can see where the highest rates are. They line up almost perfectly with the areas that have the lowest wealth. This is that accident of birth in its most brutal form.
And it's not just about food. It's about things we often take completely for granted. More than 2 billion people don't have access to basic sanitation. 663 million people can't get clean water. These are the absolute fundamentals for a healthy life. And for a huge chunk of humanity, they're a luxury, not a given. All because of where they were born.
And this is what's so tragic. Inequality doesn't just affect one person, it traps entire generations. We're talking about 152 million children who are working instead of going to school. They're forced into it by poverty. And as you can see, almost 71% of them are in agriculture. And if you can't get an education, what are your chances of breaking out of that cycle? They're close to zero.
So, let's just recap. We've seen the staggering scale of global inequality. We've looked at the economic engine that drives it, and we've seen the devastating human cost. And all of that leads us to a really big final question. If this is what the system produces, maybe, just maybe, we need to rethink the rules of the game.
And look, that's not some fringe idea. This is a quote from Warren Buffett, literally one of the richest people on the planet. He's saying, point blank, that the mega-rich get these extraordinary tax breaks and that lawmakers protect them like they're an endangered species. I mean, coming from him, someone at the absolute peak of the pyramid, that's a pretty stunning admission, isn't it? Which brings us right back to where we started, but with a lot more perspective. We're left with this really fundamental question. If that formula, R greater than G, is true, if money made from capital will always grow faster than money made from labor, then what does meritocracy even mean anymore? What is the value of hard work in a world like that? It's a tough question, and one that really makes you think about what kind of society we're actually creating.